Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Saturdays with Spencer. I know that this is a little bit of a crazy time. I know that the way different world governments are handling this coronavirus situation, is greatly impacting the way many of us are living. And I know that, for kids with special needs, obviously any kind of special need is a pre-existing condition. And so when you have, the medical community saying that people with special needs or people with pre-existing conditions are at an increased risk of coronavirus, of course, that's going to be very scary to parents. And you know what? We still don't really know the risk to our children. On the one hand, we know that people who are elderly, people with respiratory problems, are definitely at a heightened risk. But fortunately, it seems like children are much less likely to contract coronavirus or for it to be fatal for them. But again, with kids with special needs, we need to be extra careful. They tend to be more likely to have weakened immune systems, more likely to have poor respiratory systems. And for that reason, we have to be very careful. Now, I do have to say, fortunately, for a lot of the kids on our Doman Method program, sometimes they are the healthiest members of their households. I get contacted by families all the time who say, you know what, the whole family got sick except for my kid with special needs, because they're doing daily physical activity. They are getting, an excellent supplement regimen. They are getting a nutritious diet. They're getting good sleep. They're getting everything that you should be getting to keep a strong and healthy immune system. And, I think that, looking at how the world is responding to coronavirus, I think it's wonderful, the focus on hygiene. I think that is common sense. Everyone obviously needs to be washing their hands right now. We have to be looking at limited contact, and that's good. But I also feel like a bit of ignorance has been exposed here, because I don't hear anyone talking, or I don't hear many people talking about what needs to be done to keep a stronger immune system. It's like there's no recommendations out there for how to stay healthy. And we all know that having a strong immune system is one of the most important things for keeping us healthy. What about, it's just interesting, common sense recommendations like making sure people are getting a full night's rest, making sure that people are getting daily exercise and eating nutritious foods. I don't see that. Of course, there's no recommendations about supplementation either. So I think everyone will be happy to hear that one of the things that Doman International is planning is Dr. Aravind Bagade, who is our Director of Health and Nutrition, will be presenting a webinar accessible to any parent in the world called Protecting Your Child with Special Needs from the Coronavirus. And it's, obviously it's applicable for any parent, but it's going to be focused especially on kids with special needs. And he will be teaching about what needs to be done, to keep our kids healthy, to reduce risk of contracting the virus. And so as soon as I have exact information about when that's going to be done, of course, we'll be sharing it on Doman International. I'll be sharing it on my Facebook page. Please be sure to just follow our pages during the upcoming days and weeks. I also wanted to say that, Doman International puts out an e-newsletter every 2 weeks, and it is just the best thing out there for free. I mean, every e-newsletter we send out has Doman Method cognitive materials, just downloadable books for free that you can get. It has, blogs and recommendations from our staff. So, for example, during next week's e-newsletter, we're going to have recommendations for protecting your child from coronavirus or COVID-19. And so please, if you're not getting the e-newsletter, go to our website and sign up. If you don't know how to find it, just comment on Instagram, comment on Facebook, say, I want the e-newsletter, and I'll send you the exact link. I'll comment after Saturdays with Spencer on the exact link for that. You know, I feel that in times of great negativity, which I feel like we're in right now, we have to basically look at our perspective on things and ask ourselves, how are we going to deal with this situation in the best possible way? You know, I remember hearing from my grandfather, Glenn, who I think lived through some of the most trying times that existed. I mean, he you know, fought his way through Europe during the Second World War. He was, you know, in London during the bombings of London. And he talked about the perspective of watching the people in these toughest situations often banding together and finding the positivity and even the humor in really, really difficult moments. And so I wanted to start off Saturdays with Spencer with something positive. So I have put together a list of 10 advantages to having your kids home during the coronavirus. I thought, okay, let's talk about some good things, right? Because I know that if you know, if your workplace has told you you have to go home, or if your kid's school has been canceled, that is an enormous inconvenience for you. And everyone, you know, has been inconvenienced by this. But there are advantages, and it's good for us in tough times to talk about what those advantages are. So here are my 10 advantages to the situation for kids with special needs from the coronavirus. So number one, there's increased awareness now about what we need to do to keep our kids healthy. And, you know, things like washing your hands, common sense, but often when people are visiting family members with small children or kids with special needs, washing their hands before they handle the child is often overlooked. And washing hands, you know, especially if you have a kid with special needs and you have people coming in and out of your home doing Doman Method programs like patterning, you need everyone to be washing their hands when they come into the house, or at least using hand sanitizer. So I think one positive thing is just now we're all more aware about what we have to do to keep our kids healthy, and that's a positive thing. Second thing, if you are at home more with your kid right now because your work is canceled or school is canceled or whatever, you know, it allows you more time to focus on your kid's program. And, you know, I got a wonderful Facebook message today from a friend who has 3 kids. And he was like, you know what? I have to be at home right now, but this is a blessing in disguise. I get to focus on my kids' reading program. And I think he has exactly the right mentality. Yeah. Okay. Third advantage, if you're the working parent and you're now at home, well, now you have the opportunity to spend more quality time with your child and help out with the program more. I did a webinar a few weeks ago about what dads can do to help out more with their child's Doman Method program. And I think especially if you're that working parent and you've got some time at home right now, you know, please don't just isolate yourself in another room all day and do work. Take advantage of this time. Spend more time with your kids. I cannot underscore the importance of dads being involved in their kids' lives. I saw a remarkable study recently that showed that, I think it was that if dads got paternal leave 2 weeks after their baby was born, just they were with their newborn babies for 2 weeks, when they tracked those fathers later on, years later, they were much more likely to be involved in child rearing duties. You know, things like changing diapers, feeding their kids, just from the 2 weeks of paternal leave. So if you're at home, take advantage of it and be more with your kids. Next, you know, for those parents out there, another advantage, if you're doing one of the online Doman Method courses, if you're doing a remote consultation with Doman International, which if you're not aware, we have so many online services now. We have essentially Doman International has been preparing for this moment for the last 3 years. We didn't realize it, but we have been by putting everything online. We're going to have all of our advanced lectures online in the next month. We have our online course. We have remote consultations, which parents can do. So if you're one of those parents, if you need remote help, this is the time to get it. You're at home. Why wait? Okay, the fifth advantage, more quality family time. I understand there are a lot of inconveniences with shortages at the supermarket. By the way, I'm getting photos from all of you all around the world. I got some photos of the long lines for customs at Delhi airport. I'm getting photos from supermarkets with bare shelves, and that's terrible. And I don't want to make light, by the way, of all the difficulties that coronavirus is presenting in people's lives. It's serious. There are people getting ill. My own grandma who lives in Florida, unfortunately, where she lives is basically on lockdown. So we cannot go and visit her, and that's very, very upsetting. And so this is no joke. But if you're at home with your family, take that quality time to be with your family. I mean, so many people who wake up in the morning and go, oh, if I could just stay home today, it would be great. Some people just had their dreams come true. So take advantage of it, spend more time with your family. It could end up being some of the warmest memories of your life. Something that comes to mind, my dad, Douglas, had some heart surgery, and this was about 10 years ago. And unfortunately, when he was in the hospital, he was given a medication and had an allergic reaction to it. And his blood platelets dropped dramatically. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this. But because his blood platelets dropped dramatically, the hospital said to him, you cannot leave. You must stay here. And so basically for 2 months, my dad was stuck in the hospital. And so basically my family was doing like daily rounds, going and visiting him and spending time with him in the hospital. He was living there for 2 months. And we actually had our Thanksgiving dinner at the hospital. He couldn't come home, so we had to go to him. And, doing a Thanksgiving dinner in a hospital sounds like just about the most miserable thing anyone could ever do. But you know what? I look back at it as one of the best Thanksgivings we ever had. And it's just because in the end, inconveniences come up, but it's all about the people in your life who are most important to you. So, whatever the situation is, hug your kids a little tighter today, spend a little bit more time with them. Believe me, you'll look back at this time as much more positive than you're thinking it will be. Next thing, if you're at home with your kids, this is a great moment to focus on increasing independence skills with your children. If you want to teach your child how to do things independently, whether it's potty training, whether it's teaching them how to make their bed, whatever it is, those things take time. And because they take time, parents often kind of put those things on the back burner. And it's like, wow, you're home 2 weeks with your kid right now, teach them something new. This is the time, because once this time is up, if they're able to do something independently, it'll save you a ton of time in the future. Okay, by the way, for those of you who are joining us late, I'm going through 10 advantages to being in our current situation with the coronavirus with a kid with special needs. Okay, next thing. This is a good time for you to be looking at your child's diet and their supplementation regimen, and making sure that they're on a supplement regimen which is, created to help boost a healthy immune system. Like I said, I don't see any governments around the world saying, use buffered vitamin C or use oregano oil or, use grapefruit seed extract, or the many, many things out there which are good for boosting, immune support. And so look, if you want help with creating your child's supplementation regimen, Doman International has nutrition consultations, which we do remotely. So please, if you're interested, send me a comment on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever. Just say, I want a nutrition consultation, or I'm interested, and I can have information sent to you. By the way, if you forget to comment, you can always email us at info@domaninternational.org. info@domaninternational.org. Next advantage for us being in this current situation with coronavirus. Teach your child in this moment how your family handles adversity. Teach your family during this time, teach your kids how in your family you handle adversity. You know, I remember when my grandpa Max, this is my mother's father, he had a devastating stroke where he lost all of his speech capabilities. He lost his mobility. In a moment, he lost his speech and his mobility. And so my parents decided to bring him up from Florida, up to Philadelphia. So just to give you an idea, this is like 16 years ago, so that we as a family would do his treatment program. And so my parents created a treatment program for my grandpa, and we all got involved. But I'll never forget, my parents sat down, all of us, 4 kids at a table together, and they said, look, here's the situation. Your grandpa has had a stroke, and we need to band together right now to help your grandpa. Because in the Doman family, that's what we do. We work together and we help whoever needs it. So these are your jobs. And they said, Spencer, this is what you're gonna do. Morgan, this is what you're gonna do. Marla, this is what you're gonna do. Noah, this is what you're gonna do. Let's get started. And I cannot tell you the importance of those moments of talking to your kids and saying, this is a tough time, but in our family, in the Smith family, this is how we handle it. It's a way of instilling values and ethos in your kids and showing them that in our family, we're resilient. Yes, we might be hearing negative stuff from the rest of the world. Yes, there's a lot of craziness out there, but we together are strong. Together, we are stronger. And your kids will leave that experience with a much stronger attitude. They will think, in our family, we don't let things stop us. We don't let things get us down. And that's very, very important. Ninth advantage to our current situation, it's a good time for us to start learning and implementing better health habits, right? If we're not sleeping enough, let's prioritize getting a full night's rest. If we are not eating healthy, let's focus on eating healthy. You know, if we are not exercising daily, let's focus on exercising daily. This is the time. If there's any time that we're going to look at getting ourselves healthier, this is the time. And of course, getting our kids healthier as well. The 10th advantage is, keep in mind, this might be a trying time for you, but it's not necessarily a trying time for your child. This is a really important thing to understand. You know, a lot of parents will contact us at Doman International and say, you know, how do I explain the situation to my child? How do we, you know, reason with our kid with what's going on right now? And I think what you have to understand, for children, what kids care about most is, do the people they love the most, are they around? And number 2, can they get the attention of the people they love the most? And if they know that you're there with them, and if they know that they can talk to you, that you will give them your attention, they will be happy. My favorite example of this is a story that I like to tell about the pop star Bruno Mars. Now, most of you probably know Bruno Mars. He's like one of the biggest pop stars out there. And, you know, he has probably has $1 billion now, and 10 generations of his family will live without having to worry about money. But Bruno Mars grew up in complete poverty. He was raised by a single dad. His mom basically abandoned him and his sister and his dad. And so his dad was a zookeeper. Well, he wasn't even a zookeeper. He was like a janitor at a zoo, and they were homeless. So what his dad did every day was he would sneak little Bruno and his daughter into the zoo property without his bosses knowing about it. They would sleep in a tiny cabin at the edge of the zoo, and then he would get the kids out of the zoo in the morning before his bosses showed up. And this happened for years. And so the only reason why I know this, I was watching an interview with Bruno Mars, and the journalist who was interviewing him brought him back to the place where he had grown up. And imagine a shack, no running water, no toilet, no electricity, absolute, disgusting. And so the journalist goes into this hut with Bruno, and she says to Bruno, how did you survive this? How did you deal with this? And Bruno gave her this look of like, what do you mean? And the journalist said to him, well, you had nothing. And Bruno looked at her again with this kind of funny look, and he said, oh no, we had everything. We had each other. And that moment to me just told me everything I needed to know about him. And it told me everything I needed to know about kids. For little Bruno, he didn't care he was growing up in poverty. He didn't care he didn't have electricity. He didn't care that he wasn't wealthy. All he cared about was he had dad and a sister. That's all that mattered to him. And that's the way kids think. And by the way, right now, this might be a tough time for you. Maybe this whole coronavirus situation means you're going to lose money. It might mean that you might be stuck at home, and that's a tough thing. But for your kids, if they're getting more of your time, if they're getting more of your attention, that's a bonus. Okay. And most likely, here's the ironic thing. Our kids will probably remember this time as one of their favorite times. We're going to hear this generation of kids talk in the most glowing terms of, remember when we were all at home and there was coronavirus and we got to stay at home with our families and we had so much fun. That's the way kids think. So please, this is a trying time for us adults. We have to deal with all this nonsense, but our kids are fine. Our kids are happy. And if you teach them, this is how our family deals with adversity, we're all going to be good. They will come out of this moment stronger, not weaker.